We'll call this meeting to order. Roll call.
Ms. Vogt?
Here.
Mr. McCullough?
Here.
Mr. Mills?
Here.
Mr. Punier?
Here.
Mr. Oden?
Here. We're all present. Let us stand for the flag salute, which will be led by Councilmember McCullough.
Join me in the salute. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Report on the posting of the agenda.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the agenda you have before you entitled Call and Notice of Special Public Hearing Meeting was posted in accordance with the Brown Act provisions. I did receive materials around 5 o'clock in our office and some here at the dais. Those are loose sheets at your dais. There should be 4 of them. Additionally, there's a yellow folder up there, but those materials are for your adjourned meeting and not for Section 14.
Okay. I have several cards here. The public hearing on Section 14, those who wish to speak in public comments will speak only to Section 14 during this meeting. Once this meeting is over, then we will go to our adjourned meeting. So those who have public comments for the next meeting will have to wait until this public hearing is closed. Public hearing. Case 5.0728, Plan Development, Section 14, Master Plan, Zoning Ordinance, and Map Amendment. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. This is a request for council to consider the recommendation of the Planning Commission with regard to Section 14. And we have several people giving a staff report, and I would start with Doug Evans, the Director of Planning and Zoning. I think he's coming in now. Doug, you're on.
While we're waiting for Mr. Evans, I'd just like to make an announcement. There's a news conference at 10 a.m. on Friday, April the 2nd, and it will be held at Palm Springs Police Training Room Center, and that's 101C, and it's to discuss the vandalism involving the windows being shot out in the city's commercial districts, and to make a few other announcements. So those of you who wish to attend that meeting, we will see you there. That's 10 a.m. Friday morning, April the 2nd. Mr. Evans?
Thank you very much. I apologize for being late. I was putting some last-minute things together. This is a public hearing before the City Council on a wide range of issues affecting the area known as Section 14. And for the public's purposes, that's the area bounded by Alejo Road on the north, Sunrise Way on the east, Ramon Road on the south, and Indian Canyon Drive on the west. The items before the City Council are outlined in your staff report, and we have a number of resolutions that support that, and I'd like to be able to just go through the actions before the City Council as an administrative overview, and then I'm going to have Jing Yu, Principal Planner, go over the plans and exhibits and give you an idea of what the physical land plan is. But I'd like to some degree start with, what the Section 14 plan is not, because during the Planning Commission review process and all of the extensive public meetings that we had, both with large groups and small groups and people at the counter, we found that there were a lot of ideas about Section 14 and what it is. The Section 14 plan is not a development proposal. It is not a plan that proposes to construct any particular building. The Section 14 master plan is a planning document that is an augmentation of our existing general plan and our existing zoning ordinance. And what it does is it lays the framework for future land use decisions. It lays the ground rules for property owners, developers, investors, community members of what are the ground rules for proposing development in Section 14. If you approve this plan tonight or at a subsequent meeting, there are no development projects that will immediately happen because you did this. And I can tell you that there's likely very few future development projects that could be proposed under the Section 14 master plan that for the most part could not be proposed under today's general plan and zoning criteria in Section 14. As I worked on this plan, and we've been from staff to staff level, we've been working on this plan for a long time. The one thing that I discovered as I reviewed it, that it is very, very similar in many respects to our existing general plan and zoning. What it primarily does is establishes a stronger, more focused format where parcels of land that had one or two land use designations now have one, so that it's less confusing, it's easier to demonstrate to people, and it will take less time for the staff to talk to the community about it, and whether they're citizens, potential investors, or developers. So from the standpoint of what the plan isn't, it is not a development permit because there's a lot of information that has gone out that says that it is. The items before you tonight, first is a review of the final environmental impact report that's been prepared on this. This is a document that was prepared jointly by the tribal staff and the city staff. It's a document that's already been through the full federal review process, and the tribe has taken all of its actions on the final EIR. And tonight, the City Council would be considering certification of the final EIR, adoption of a statement of facts and findings, which is a document that basically summarizes the EIR and the findings that the council would make relative to the environmental consequences. And then it would also include a statement of overriding consideration. There are two impact areas that have potential significant impacts that cannot be fully mitigated. Those potential significant impacts are air quality, having to do with you can't reduce all the air quality impacts to a level of insignificance with all feasible mitigation measures. That's a conclusion of the EIR, and that was a conclusion that we had when we adopted the city's general plan back in 1993, that if we developed this city consistent with our general plan, we would not be able to mitigate all of the air quality impacts to a level of insignificance. It is not uncommon for any community to have to adopt that type of finding on a project that covers a planning document for a square mile. From the standpoint of the second potentially significant environmental impact, it has to do with the cumulative effect of water consumption. The Coachella Valley is in an overdraft condition. The water consumption in the Coachella Valley, when you take a look at it regionally and then break it back down to this particular project, even after implementing all feasible mitigation measures, and DWA has indicated they have adequate water resources to serve the property and the development that may occur. At the end of the day, the EIR found that there's a significant cumulative impact to water resources. That's also not an unusual finding in our situation, and the council has adopted that for other projects that are large in scope, recognizing that clearly is a debatable issue and that the impact is significant. We did receive a letter in your packet. It was handed out today. We received it today. And we took a look at the letter. We took a look at the issues in the letter, and the draft statement of facts and findings and the draft statement of overriding considerations. We're going to, at the conclusion of the public hearing, we're going to give you a minor revision to those and add the cumulative impact of water. It'll be a couple of paragraphs to add into the findings, and when we get to that one, we'll let you know. But the EIR did, on page 6-3, make the conclusion that the cumulative impact of water is a potentially significant impact. You received some additional correspondence regarding water, particularly having to do with a risk that's outside of this geographic area. That's an issue that we don't think is really addressed in local EIRs. It's an issue for groundwater managers, groundwater companies, and the overall public water system to take a look, and that has to do with some newspaper articles. And you have two pieces of correspondence that came in today that raised that issue. From the standpoint of the actual actions before you, and Jing will go over these, there's a general plan amendment that goes along with this. We'll point out the general areas of the general plan amendment relative to designating certain areas with different land use classifications. And there's also a general plan amendment relative to reclassification of several roadways within Section 14. And Jing will try to point those out too. The actual master plan, as I've indicated, is a planning document. After the Planning Commission recommendation, the City Council, before the City Council meeting, we were asked, in conjunction with the tribal staff, to conduct several public meetings. We did conduct several public meetings. We had meetings in the large conference room, at which time the first meeting we had about 350 people. And the purpose of that meeting was to allow people to get up close, look at the plan, ask questions, try to get the answers that were important to them. We had a subsequent public meeting where we had 50 people that registered. Some of the people were the same people and some were new. And again, we had the same meeting format. We answered questions. We showed people exhibits. We tried to actually let them talk to both city staff as well as tribal staff during those meetings. In addition, we had a follow-up meeting, or two meetings, that were attended by city and tribal staff. One was with a group of homeowners that have property on Alejo Road. Their properties front on Via Calusa in the movie colony. Their backyards are on Alejo Road. The backyards are in an area where the current city's general plan would require an additional 50 feet of dedication to build a 100-foot thoroughfare. The Section 14 planning team looked at that very, very carefully. They worked very hard to come up with a roadway section that would not require a 50-foot dedication into existing backyards and existing structures. The new right-of-way line would, we think, after we do an actual roadway alignment study, will be very close to the existing wall on Alejo Road. The tribe, in looking at that, agreed to shift the right-of-way to the south so that more land, Indian land in Section 14 or reservation land, would ultimately be committed to right-of-way so that those existing homes on Via Calusa and Alejo Road would not have the potential for a 50-foot right-of-way, either acquisition or dedication. We met with all but one property owner in a meeting, and I believe everybody left with a greater sense of comfort that the Section 14 master plan was better for them. There is one house that we did talk to the property owner that does stick out further than the rest, and there could be a situation where a portion of a room might be in what needs to be a future roadway alignment, but we also think that there's a way to probably move the roadway around that. City traffic and engineering staff was there, tribal planning staff, as well as city staff. But we had a good meeting with those people, and that was a result of the first meeting and their request. From the second smaller meeting is the Methodist Church asked to have a presentation on the Section 14 plan. Tribal staff and city staff attended that and answered questions from the church membership so that they understood how this project would affect their particular property in Section 14. The Planning Commission, in their review of the project, did have some recommendations to the City Council. Those recommendations are on page 1A4 of your staff report under summary. The Planning Commission did recommend that the City Council approve the project or the master plan with a 60-foot height limit for building heights, and then a 15-foot height limit for mechanical equipment on the top of that, and that's in line with the non-Indian high-rise ordinance that's in effect in the city. I will comment on that, and I think Tom Davis, maybe Art Bunce of the tribal staff may have some additional comments. But the issue of 100-foot high buildings in Section 14 was last addressed between the the tribal council and the city council in 1988, where an ordinance was adopted relative to a 100-foot height limit on Indian trust and allotted lands. It goes back even further to 1967. And Art Bunce can probably give you a little more history on that. So this has been a long-term issue between the city and the tribe, and it's been a core value for the tribe relative to their land use potential. Since 1967, there have been no buildings built that are 100 feet high in Palm Springs. We have some buildings that are at 60 feet, both in Section 14 and other locations, Desert Hospital, the Hyatt Hotel, the Wyndham Hotel, and the Spa Hotel. We have an approved project east of the airport as part of a resort project that does go above 100 feet on Indian land. But, at this point, there haven't been any built. And to be honest with you, in my tenure with the city in Section 14, I've seen probably one actual development plan where somebody showed us an idea of a 10-story tower or two, and that project never was submitted. So there hasn't been a lot of interest in it so far. That doesn't mean in the future that probability wouldn't be there. Planning Commission felt strong about it. They heard a lot of community testimony about it. Staff clearly tried to explain the history of it to the Planning Commission and the fact that it's been an item with the tribe and the city for a long time. The other changes the Planning Commission recommended, they're in your report as a memo dated January 24th, 2004. In talking to tribal staff, the tribal staff has indicated that all of those changes are acceptable. And then the last one came up at the hearing that the city and tribal staff worked with Southern California Gas about putting in a conditional use permit provision. They have a small piece of property on Sunrise Way that's vacant, that if the way the plan was written, because it's a wedged-in piece, nobody really picked up on it, they would not be able to expand their office use. And the tribe and the city staff and the Planning Commission have recommended that we just put that in as a conditional use permit for that type of property on Sunrise Way. So I think all of the changes that the Planning Commission recommended, as I understand it, are acceptable to the tribal staff in our discussions with the staff, with the exception of the 60-foot versus 100-foot building height. And when you actually add everything up, it's really a difference between 75 and 100 is the difference. So it's a 25-foot difference. With that administrative overview, I'm going to have Jing go over the actual land use plans. And Jing is our principal planner, and she's been working on the staff report and has done a lion's share of the work on this project from the city's standpoint. Where did Rick put it?
Good evening, Jean. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Doug. I'll start actually with an aerial photo just to show you a little bit. The Section 14 area is actually the area in green. And really, the plan was, created mostly to take a look at where the areas, where you see a lot of vacant land. It's a little easier. We can go back and forth between the exhibits. I'll start primarily with this general plan and zoning exhibit. Basically, the general plan is the broad policy document that guides future development in the city. And whatever happens in the Section 14 plan has to be consistent with the general plan. So to go over some of the general plan amendments, those are in your staff report that show existing and proposed general plan. You can see the existing general plan with some of the parcels along Tockwitz primarily, and that's where most of the changes are occurring, is where you see the split zoning and the split general plan that has caused some confusion over the years. So, the Section 14 plan proposed to just, assign one land use designation for those split parcels. So again, you see most of the changes occurring for the general plan with respect to land use occur along Tockwitz and to some degree along Indian Canyon Drive in this corner here near Ramon and Indian, and then near Alejo and Indian Canyon. Down here is sort of a minor change to more central business district type uses, and up in the Alejo area to a resort commercial type use. With respect to the Section 14 plan, you can see how that relates then to the land use designations, with most of the commercial or resort attraction type uses that are already existing on Tockwitz, are being concentrated there. Just to explain how the land use designations work, I'll take, for example, residential high, HR. It really just is an equivalent of the city's current zoning of, residential high density zoning, which is R4. And it goes back and forth like that. And there's a table in your staff report that just shows, how that equivalency works. So with respect to the residential, the property development standards, by and far, they do stay the same, along with the land uses. And we did look back and forth with respect to land uses in these specific land use designations and the zoning. And some of the key changes are just highlighted, and the commission did review them as well. With respect to this exhibit here, there was some community concern with high-rise buildings, or where you could have high-rise buildings. This exhibit basically shows the purple shaded area where you could propose a high-rise building now, and that's defined as anything higher than 35 feet. And that's really all the areas where there's high-density residential already, or it's a resort commercial type zoning. What we did is we overlaid what the Section 14 plan would allow with respect to high-rise. So you can see that's the red outline. In some areas, actually, it's been decreased. And then in the blue outline, those are areas where you could have a high-rise only if it's part of a consolidated development. And that's generally something greater than 10 acres with contiguous vacant land. So, really, if you take a look at where the shaded areas are and, where the outlines are, it's actually been reduced to some degree. The Section 14 plan actually says along Tockwitz, just to go back, take a look at the REO zone, the light blue, you can't have high-rise there. If you're not doing a consolidated development, it's just not permitted. In the RA, you could do something like that. So, this is just an exhibit just to provide some clarity as to where, under the Section 14 plan, you could have high-rise. I think that gives a quick overview of the exhibits. And with that, I'll turn it back to Doug.
Mr. Mayor, since this really is a joint planning document, and it's something that the tribe undertook as really one of the first efforts to actually look at an urbanized area and develop a land use plan. The tribe chose at the onset to make this a plan that they worked with the city on and the city staff. And there's been lots of edits to this plan prior to the Planning Commission looking at it. The Planning Commission actually had study sessions on and off for well over a year where they made comments. We went back, made adjustments. So there's been a lot of adjusting. From the standpoint of the fact that it's a joint plan, one that I'm not sure has ever been done with an Indian government entity and a city government or a county government, where they took a look and developed a land use plan for a portion of a jurisdiction, in this particular case, in the heart of the city of Palm Springs, in the heart of both the tribal reservation as well as the community of Palm Springs. Because of that, we brought the tribal staff and tribal attorney up to the desk. Tom Davis has got some comments relative to the plan from his client's perspective, and his staff has been working very hard on this also.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Davis.
Thank you for having us here today. I'd like to make a couple of broad statements. Doug and Jing did a fine job of making an overall review of the staff report. I'd like a couple of augmentations. One is that this has been something that's been in the works for a long time. It is something that is needed to provide adequate incentives for the development of an area of downtown Palm Springs that has been overlooked. This is about the development of the undeveloped property in Section 14. As you can see by the aerial photo behind you, and if you see the broader aerial photo that's on your wall map, the area in Section 14, the 185 undeveloped acres, stands out from a great distance. It's been the subject of fractional ownership, fractional zoning, the problems with the restrictions under federal law with regards to the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and it has not had really any cohesive land plan to it that makes it compatible with the existing Palm Springs community as well as an incentive to develop in Palm Springs. In regards to specifics, the Tribal Council has always stood behind the quality and protection of the environment. There are some issues that have been brought up by Doug in your correspondence that's before you that are really valley-wide issues. And they're not going to be solved particularly by 1 square mile or 1 square acre or 5 square miles of land development that's proposed. Your general plan recognized that. We recognize it. And we've been participating with CVAG, the Coachella Mountains Conservancy, on all types of environmental issues, including air, water quality, habitat conservation, dust control, and we'll continue to participate in those programs. And we're committed to doing that. With regards to the 100-foot limit, this has a long history, and I believe that Art does have more history than I do on this particular subject. But I want to make note that if nothing's done today, your existing zoning code allows for 100-foot buildings on any land. What we've done with the plan is we've incorporated additional development standards, open space requirements, vertical and horizontal setbacks, and conditions under which to review plans that make it at least more difficult to develop 100-foot story structures. And particularly in those areas, we want to encourage, if there's going to be any type of development that's beyond 60 feet, that it will be done on consolidated projects, and the plan, again, encourages that. So we have additional development standards in place in the plan for you to adopt, if you wish, that address those particular issues, and we believe that's satisfactory. One of the things that the Tribal Council made a commitment to is to avoid, if all possible, any downzoning. And that's one of the other issues regarding the 100-foot limit. We've made commitments to property owners, allotted trust landowners and fee landowners, and leaseholders to maintain the type of vision and development that's always been there and improve upon it. So with that, if Mr. Bunce has any comments, we have them.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. The Tribal Council is certainly very pleased to be working with the city to produce a master plan for the heart of both the city and the reservation, as Tom said. This particular section is the oldest section of the reservation. It was the first section. It was made the reservation in 1876 by an executive order of President Grant. Since then, 42 other sections have been added to the reservation for 31,000 acres. But this was the original reservation. It was the home of the hot spring. And because it's a federal Indian reservation today, the tribe, if it really wished, could proceed with land use and development control entirely on its own with no input from anyone. But the tribe realizes that really makes no sense at all, especially in a checkerboard jurisdiction and with the relationship that we have with the city of Palm Springs. So the tribe is very pleased to be working with the city to produce a planning document that we believe will benefit everyone. Part of the benefit comes from the public input process. The tribe values the kind of input that members of the public have made, both at planning commission meetings and the other joint meetings, and at the workshops that have been hosted, I believe, by the city with tribal staff present. Frankly, the council believes that they've improved the product, and that the product will eventually emerge as one that we can all be proud of. And please recall that each individual project that may come along in the future will itself be the subject of full environmental and other review, as would any other project going through the normal city process. So the Tribal Council is very pleased to be able to work with the city in this way for the kind of community that I think we'll all be pleased with.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Evans?
if I could get back to the issue of how do we, at staff and at both at city staff and tribal staff, implement a plan like this. We have been using the Section 14 plan as a draft document now for almost 2 years in reviewing development projects, both the ones that have been submitted and the ones that have been built in Section 14, but also when people come in and ask us, what does the city want? We always have to say, well, it's not just the city in this case, it's also the tribe. We have been testing this plan with real development projects. Extended Stay America is one. And I want to tell you how it changed because of this plan. They came in originally and wanted to build that project on half of the land that it's currently on. It would have been very, very narrow. And they had a prototype design. And I took a look at the plan, had the planning staff look at the Section 14 plan. We had a meeting with Extended Stay, and we said, your project is not approvable, in our opinion, based upon the quality of development that we want to see in Palm Springs and what the Tribal Council wants to see in Palm Springs. Very quickly, they acquired the property next door. They did not add one dwelling unit or one hotel room to the project. They put the same size product on 5 acres, built a resort entry to it and a pool and the streetscape that you have. And we used the Section 14 plan to show them the vision, even though it was still draft. The projects on Arenas Road and Barista, we've used it. The project under construction at Alejo and Caballeros, we've used it. And we've also used it looking at the convention center. So we think it's been tested. Now, what happens when somebody comes in with a development project? We sit down with the plans and the documents and aerial photographs, knowing what the scale of buildings are around a project. And we talk about how does it fit, what's the surrounding relationship, and some of the areas that you see in the shaded purple, I could tell you, planning staff would say, even though the plan says you could propose a high-rise there, we do not believe that the guidelines of the Section 14 plan or the city's current general plan and zoning ordinance would allow you to successfully go through the approval process because of your neighboring conditions, the size of the property, the configuration of the property. And I think Tom made a real good point that when I looked at this plan, it has more, to use economic development terms, it has a few more hoops to go through if you want to build a building that triggers the tribal high-rise ordinance than the current program. And that surprised me when we saw the first plan, that the tribe would add regulation and restrictions, but they also added incentives to make people want to do a good job. Mr. Mayor, we could, there's a lot of information here. We could keep on going. We'd prefer to answer questions that the council has before and after the public hearing, and that completes our report.
Thank you. Council, are there any questions regarding the report? Yes, Mr. Mills.
Just, Doug, I wonder if you could quickly give us an overview of how, in the case of a high-rise development, the calculation for the setbacks is determined, and from what points those setbacks are determined?
Well, the actual setback criteria are established from the property lines, and, you know, basically it reads 1 horizontal foot of setback for each vertical distance on the short dimension of the lot, and 1.5 feet of horizontal setback for 1 vertical foot along the long dimension of the lot. So it really depends on the lot configuration, and the idea is to make it work and fit. And, you know, I'll give you an example. We've got a proposal for a new project next to the Marquis Hotel. Long, narrow piece of property, you know, really difficult to work. And on 3 of the sides, that proposal will comply with the high-rise setbacks. And on 1 side, for 10 feet of the height of the building, you know, a little wedge of it, it doesn't quite comply. So they've applied for a variance, but it's a variance to property that they own. And there's really not a significant impact. So that the way that staggers is one that is intended to have a setback. It's not the same setback that applies in the citywide high-rise ordinance, which has a 3-to-1 ratio in commercial areas from the property line or the street. But that's a quick overview. I could go into more detail if you'd like.
Okay. No, that's fine. Maybe. Thank you.
Are there any other questions before I open the hearing? Yes, Ms. Fogg?
I do have a question. With the 100-foot building height, if it is such an impossibility to locate it, can you give a little background to me on why the Planning Commission then reduced the allowable height?
I think the planning commissioners, as they looked at this and they looked at the land plan, took a look at the areas that are available for development where high-rises could go, recognizing that there aren't as many areas left where a high-rise development really would make sense in Section 14. They felt that the existing height limit that's best represented, you know, by the Wyndham Hotel was an adequate size and mass of a building. So I think they were looking at it both from a land use standpoint as well as an urban design standpoint as to, you know, just height, mass, and scale of buildings in this part of downtown. And they just felt that having one, you know, as you get into the core part of our community, having one height standard that's equivalent to what's the standard downtown would be a more appropriate recommendation to the city council.
So what you're saying is they had no concerns about that there would be a building built of 100 feet high, that this was an aesthetic decision?
No, it was a land use relative to where a potential 100-foot high building could be, relative to surrounding land use, view corridor, and, you know, the effect of that building. And then in an urban design, you know, type situation, they just felt that the mass and scale of a 60-foot mass of a building with mechanical equipment above was a better mass and scale for this part of Palm Springs. And as you know, the Planning Commission was comfortable with a building taller than 100 feet, you know, as you got further out in the desert, with a lot more setback to surrounding property. But they had a range of issues. Each commissioner expressed a subtly different position, but they were unanimous in their recommendation to you on that.
And the recommendation was 60-15?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Punier?
Doug, did the city's planning department make any recommendation to the commission on this?
On that one, we put this plan together after the years we worked on it. We recommended approval of the plan with a series of changes. We did not recommend lowering the height from 100 feet to 75 feet, and if the council would like, I'll tell you why.
Please.
I believe as a staff that in 1967 and 1988, the issue was resolved between the two councils.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Mr. McCullough?
Could you explain a little bit about the residential densities up to 86 units? I'm having trouble visualizing that. Could you give me a little example of what this change is?
Well, the current master plan, the city's general plan, allows hotel units on Indian land in Section 14 to go up to 86 units per acre. It's actually 87 if depending on how you do the calculation. But that, that is a high density level, in any type of setting. The Wyndham Hotel is about 60 units per acre. When you just look at the hotel property, if you were to then add the convention center property, since it was a consolidated project, it was a little bit less. But the Wyndham Hotel is about 60 units per acre. For residential developments in Section 14 on the high-density Indian land, it's 43 residential dwelling units per acre. And I don't think we have anything in Palm Springs that's up above 27 or 28 units per acre. Just under 30. I think we have one project that's just under 30 units per acre. Most of our higher density residential properties in Palm Springs are at today generally at about 21 units per acre, maybe a little more, a little less. When you start getting above that type of density, you really have to start going into structured parking. And so far, we haven't had too many people wanting to build underground parking or above ground parking for residential products. So I think there's some market constraints that at least in the foreseeable future might make it more challenging for developers to try to maximize either residential or hotel density. But I hope that gives you a range in comparison of what we have on the ground today.
I'm reading some language that says residential development would be permitted at 8, 15, and 30 units per acre with densities up to 86 units if certain conditions are met. What are those conditions?
I think as you get into the 86 units per acre, you're at that point triggered into a consolidated development project. It has to be a 10-acre site, and you start triggering into those higher performance standards that Tom Davis referred to. But to get to that level, it's 86 units per acre is going to take probably an underground parking solution as well as some above ground parking to be able to meet all the other property development standards.
Okay, if there are no other questions, we will open the hearing at this time. And I will begin with the cards that I have. Greg Landenberg, followed by Cookie Butcher. If you please come forward, you will have 5 minutes. Good evening. Please give your name to the clerk and welcome.
Good evening. My name is Greg Landenberg. I'm on the board of Palm Springs Allied Homeowners. And I think you all have a presentation I briefly put together. The crux of my issue is, I think, on the last page of the presentation, which points out the issues with Indian lease land. And what our community has experienced has brought us here tonight. What we're asking for from the City Council is to gain some concessions before just blanketly approving this Section 14 plan. On the first page, you'll see that the tribe took out appurtenances thereon in our lease, just said we're taking it out in front of 25 neighbor members. And then on the next page, you'll see a graph which shows monthly land rents. And the yellow bar at the end shows a rent on our community in excess of Thunderbird Villas. Our homes at the time were valued at approximately $300,000. Thunderbird Villas were 3 times that. We feel this unilateral approach with dealing with citizens in this city really needs to be changed, and I'm here tonight to advocate for that. The final page from the Tribal Development Plan indicates one challenge by the allottees is to collect fair market rents. And what is fair market rent? And what we can find from that is it comes from the tribal council, whatever the market will allow them to charge. And we don't think this is fair. This is done with the assistance of the tribal appraiser, who also happens to be the BIA's official appraiser, and that seems to us to be a conflict of interest. And then finally, verbatim excerpts from Section 14 plan, essentially indicating the negative perception of leasing on Indian land, involving uncertainty, frustration, bad feelings, and unsuccessful developments. The BIA has been charged with streamlining lease revision and/or lease extensions. Yet, referring back to my chart that's readily available from realtors and all, that's clearly not happening. One thing is being said and another is being done. The unfair pricing of these lands has been happening for many years in Palm Springs, and it will continue unless we do something about it, and that's why we are here tonight. We're urging the City Council to gain concessions from the tribe on these issues before a general approval of the Section 14 plan is given. Not only will the cityscape be changed forever, and our citizens will have to contend with an increase in density despite EPA warnings, such problems as lease extension and unfair pricing will continue, thus driving people out of their homes. We are discussing these issues with federal and state level officials who are most concerned about the implications of the bar chart that you see in front of you, and we hope that our city will be an advocate for us as well. Please, we feel that the issue of Section 14 should be out to the people to vote on. Such a radical change in the cityscape. The people that live there should know about it. And I really appreciate your time tonight. Thank you very much.
And thank you. Cookie Butcher, followed by Richard Hussar. Good evening. You'll have 5 minutes. Welcome.
I only need 3. My name is Cookie Booker, and I've lived in Palm Springs 4 years. I bought a home and came here to live out the rest of my life. At age 80, I'm here to tell you I do not want to move. I especially don't want to have to move because the tribe says they can do whatever they want. I don't want to have to move because you, the city council, tell me that it is in our best interest to support these development plans. I moved to Palm Springs. I love Palm Springs. I did not move to Las Vegas and Los Angeles. This town does not need 100-foot buildings. The tribe doesn't need 100-foot buildings. We don't need more casinos. The tribe doesn't need more casinos. I don't know how much profit they make from these establishments, but I am certain they do quite well for all their few hundred members who share the profits. $200, $300, $400 million, who knows? What I do know is that I don't want my neighbors to move either. I'm very fond of all of them, and it tears me up to think, if this Section 14 plan passes, that some will be selling their homes and moving where it is quiet and peaceful and beautiful. I'll tell you this, if I have to move, I would rather it be because the majority of Palm Springs citizens made the decision to live in a place very different from the one we now live in. If everybody voted and the majority said, I want this place to be different, then I would say, okay. I may not like it, but at least it was fairly decided. I could live with that. But you all should not be making that decision for us. We all live here. We all care about our homes and our neighbors, and you should not take away our right to determine our future. Thank you for allowing me to come before you and say what I wanted to say. However, if you really want to let me speak, and you're really listening to what I say and what the other good citizens in this town are saying, then you should give us the right to vote on Section 14. After all, we all still live in America, and it is truly the only fair and right thing to do. If you, the city council, really represent all of the people in this community, and not just those who belong to one very vocal and very wealthy minority, then you should do what the majority of the people want and that is to have a say in what major changes will be made in our community. Let us all vote on these major changes. Then, if the majority of those who vote want a change, most of us will be able to live with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Richard Husser, followed by Jane Smith.
Good evening.
Good evening and welcome. You'll have 5 minutes.
Thank you. I'm in heavy pollen. Bear with me. I'm Richard Hussar, and I've lived in Palm Springs for 2 years now. I'm one of Cookie's neighbors, and I don't want her to move either, and I don't want to have to move. We're very nice people. Now, on the Section 14, I keep getting so many conflicting reports as to whether the tribe wants to build more casinos or they don't want to build more casinos. When you hear one story, you hear another story. In the infomercials, which have cost huge amounts of money, they were telling us that they didn't want any more casinos. And even if they did, state law limited them to 2, which they already have. Why then are they spending so much money to convince voters statewide to give them the right to have unlimited numbers of casinos? I have friends calling me from Northern California, say, what is this letter I got from Senator Batten? What does it mean? And I tell them. Milanovic said they're willing to spend up to $50 million to pass their state initiative. Now, who is going to spend $50 million to pass an initiative to give the right to have additional casinos, additional casinos, and then not build them? Does anybody believe that? It seems clear to me that the tribe wants their initiative in November after spending $50 million. Then come December, they will begin the building. Does anyone doubt that? On top of this, I read that Section 14, I've read the Section 14 plan, and I've read the proposed changes, and on the issue of additional casinos, the plan you are voting on still allows them. Really look at it, it still allows them. The tribe has not cut additional casinos from the permitted uses in Section 14. So given all of this, a lot of us have serious doubts, and we deserve the time to look this over and make an informed decision. I agree with the others who've spoken on behalf of sending this issue to the voters. The decision is too big, and there's too much at risk, and all the residents should be allowed to vote on this matter. The vote in the last 2 weeks to allow a supersized Walmart in Palm Springs is going to come back to haunt you, as well as approval of Section 14, the way it is reading right now. Place your bets with me so I can pay the 1,000% rent increase on my property. Is there a connection going on here? I believe so. Thank you.
And thank you. Good evening, Jane. Welcome. You'll have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor. I doubt that anyone on the city council, probably the city attorney, city manager, most anybody here, has actually read the tomes and tomes and tomes of material that is sequestered away in the planning department. No one has a history here, except for the mayor, except for Doug Evans, and of course, Mr. Davis. No one in any of the meetings, the so-called friendly meetings with coffee, present the EPA warnings of water and other issues. They suffocate the real information, so no one has no information to deal with an informed consent. Why do you think Batten is spending $330,000 to send letters to his 2 million constituents to approve of Nevada-style gambling? You have before you a letter from the Environmental Law Office stating that the concerned residents are opposed to the approval of case 50728, the request of the Agua Caliente ban of Cajil in the city of Palm Springs for various amendments to the general plan use and circulation elements, section 14, master plan, specific plan and zoning amendments. In it, it specifically addresses the water issue, not only in Palm Springs, but regional, the Indio subbasin. We've been in overdraft for years. Nobody talks about it. We need to start, as the EPA suggests, dealing with it with Palm Desert and with other cities. We have got to stop acting like we're on Jupiter, when in fact we need to be acting together as a valley. And I suggest it would be very helpful if the city council would take a big breath and just hold on, make no decisions, because we don't have current data from the EPA, and the EPA is now aware of that. We have experienced explosive growth in the valley, growth that was not even anticipated 3 years ago or 2 years ago. Not even anticipated when Mr. Evans and Mr. Davies received a letter from the Environmental Protection Agency questioning the sufficiency of data and the adequate information. So, if you represent the people, theoretically, and you're not just sitting up there making a decision for yourselves, it is my recommendation that you table any decisions on any general plan amendment or any section 14 amendment. We're not talking about setbacks on buildings. We're talking about our lives. Water equals life. Air equals life. And maybe you guys could start, and Ms. Vogt, being a leader in the valley, from Beaumont to Banning to Cabazon, all the way to Palm Springs. We've been in overdraft here since 1961. It's totally irresponsible of the Desert Water Agency to say they can supply water when they can't. Sewage, air, everything, traffic, I-10's being shut down. We are the toilet bowl between Phoenix and LA, and everyone is completely unconscious about this because we don't get any news, we don't have any TV, and we blissfully live a life of unconsciousness. So there will be legal action taken. The EPA is aware that they need to have more up-to-date data because their data is outdated. Thank you.
And thank you. Phil Tedesco, followed by Cheryl Hamlin. Good evening. You'll have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. I'm Phil Tedesco. I live at 335 Big Canyon Drive. I came in here tonight to heartily congratulate Mr. Milanovic and the tribe for all that they're doing to make this city other than a T-shirt town. I've lived here for 18 years. I've seen progress. I've seen increasing deficits. I've seen businesses leave. I think the council, the tribe has built a beautiful casino. I am concerned about the water. I'm concerned about pollution. I'm concerned about a lot of things. And perhaps we should have a vote by the citizens for this amendment to what we're talking about tonight. But I do think the one thing we cannot do is to prevent progress, and we need controlled progress to keep this town the way we like it. It was a quiet little community of a few shops and a very pleasant place to live. But you know, you can't help but see progression take place. And I think that the tribe is trying to cooperate with us. I think we should work with them. I agree with a lot of things that were said tonight, but on the other hand, we cannot stop progress. And I just want to welcome the tribe to work with us as they have been, and I very much appreciate that. And I want to thank you all for that. Thank you.
And thank you. Good evening, Cheryl. You'll have 5 minutes, and welcome.
I have charts, which you all have, but I wanted to take issue with something that I've been hearing a lot on television, and what Doug was talking about, and even what Jing was saying, although I know you've been working hard on this, and that is, I do see a lot of differences in these plans, and you have to look at it parcel by parcel. On Ramon Road, for example, and some of the areas that are greatly different are the perimeters. On Ramon Road, for example, these parcels have been combined and upzoned into high-density residential. So there's really nothing precluding a row of high-rise apartments along Ramon, where it was right now it's 2 to 3 story residential and small commercial. So you have the same issue on Sunrise. And on Alejo, where there used to be a full lot buffering, they split that now and moved it up. So your buffer between Alejo and these higher buildings is much smaller. So essentially you're creating a fortress-like environment around the perimeters because there's no height delineation in the whole property. If it were a more elegant plan, I could see the higher buildings in the middle and then everything terraced around that so that the perimeters are protected and you're not, living in this fortress-like environment that I see created. And also the central properties here have been, parcels here have been combined so that these RCs, which are recreation, resort, casinos, whatever, those now can be larger and bigger. So those are really two large differences that I think the staff has really not adequately brought out in their resort and in the reports, and that the people of Palm Springs should know about, and that we certainly didn't hear on television in any of the infomercials that we saw. I also appreciate that the tribe worked with the residents on Alejo on that road, and that we should consider the recommendation to keep the 60-foot height limit in here, and then terrace every piece of property around this, with the highlight, of course, being the architecturally significant spa, casino, and hotel in the center. Thank you.
And thank you. That is the extent of the cards I have. If there's someone else who would like to speak, if you would please come forward at this time.
Mr. Mayor, council members, my name is Tom Sewitt, 38315 Maracaibo, Palm Springs. I'm representing the Palm Springs Economic Development Corporation this evening, and a 40-year resident of the city of Palm Springs, property owner, taxpayer. One of the things that some in our audience seem to forget is that our tribe has been here for hundreds, if not thousands of years, long before any of us got here. I happen to own a significant piece of property in Section 14. I believe that there's not we've got an out-of-town labor union comes in and brings a lot of people and puts out a lot of misinformation. I filed a complaint with the Fair Political Practices Commission. A couple of years from now, they'll probably get around to dealing with it. The reality is that the tribe can go ahead and build a 10-story building there if they chose to. I compliment Doug and Tom Davis and the years of effort they put into Section 14's plan. I would urge the council to take into consideration the fact that, as you know, I've paid taxes on that property I have for about 12 years, and I think that at some point the marketplace will determine what's built on Section 14. It won't be what the tribe does. It will be what individual developers and builders put in there. That too will come back before the Planning Commission. It'll come back through the full process. All the people that are here will have an opportunity to express their opinions at that time on a specific project. So I would urge your approval of the Section 14 map.
And thank you. Please come forward. Give your name to the clerk, and you will have 5 minutes.
Cleve
Good evening.
Jones. Thank you, Mr. Mayor,
Welcome.
council members. I urge you not to vote for this tonight. I think the citizens of Palm Springs need to vote on it. In talking with my neighbors, especially the last couple of days, I've been going up and down the street and talking to folks, and despite the overwhelmingly one-sided nature of the debate so far, there's still great confusion, great apprehension, and I think, unfortunately, a great amount of cynicism and resignation. But the fact is that this is probably the single most important decision that any of you are going to make on our behalf. In my neighborhood, we're just confused. We look across the street at the empty lot on the other side of Ramon. We were told originally it was going to be a cultural center. Then we heard it was going to be a vast parking lot with stadium lighting. Now it's high-density housing. I think that we need to pause, take some time, allow the city's residents, all of us, to look at it clearly and move forward together. And I support tribal sovereignty, and I campaigned for Proposition 5. And I always viewed the tribe as a good neighbor. But that opinion is changing. So I urge you not to do this tonight. Let the citizens vote. Thank you very much.
Please come forward, give your name to the clerk. You will have 5 minutes, and welcome.
Thank you. My name is Michael Robb. I'm currently renting a condo in Section 14 while my house in the south end is being done. Basically, I enjoyed your campaign statements about keeping the village atmosphere. That's one reason I voted for you. But I was disappointed to find out that in all those 8 years you were in office, there was this whole Section 14 plan that was there that suddenly appeared after the election. As far as Indian land goes, I mean, it's as you heard from Mr. Baer, I guess the attorney, if I got the name right, it is just that. It's Indian land. They can do whatever they want with it at any time. It's nice that you've included them in some of the official things that you're doing, and that they are working with you, and that they are working with the city, and but at any time they can do whatever they want. The thing they need to do is, I'm not sure how long this gambling pact was for, but that is why they've got Batten out there trying to increase that time and increase the amount of casinos, because they don't want to be like the Oklahoma Indians. When they ran out of oil, they were back into poverty. They need to take the money, they need to use it, and they need to diversify it. That land has been vacant because there was nobody with any money to do anything with it. Now the Indians have money. They don't need a developer. As soon as it is decided upon by the city, they'll develop it themselves, and then they'll rent it, and the tenants will pay the taxes. The other item is that if you buy a condo or house on Indian land, you're basically buying on someone else's land, and it's just like you are renting an apartment. When the lease is over, you're over. I have come to these meetings and I've spoken to planning and zoning people on the Indian side and on our side with Mr. Davis or Evans, and no one has told me or has been able to explain one condominium complex that has 25 to 30 years left on the lease being renewed. There are individual houses that are owned by Alatis that have gotten renewed, and their leases have gone from $35 to $350 a month like they are at the Canyon Country Club area, but none of these condos are renewed. This center core is as you see in blue, is basically the convention center and vacant land. So that's going to be developed. But the Indians can, now that they have the money, can easily spend the 15 to 20 to 30 years until these leases run out. And when they run out, you're done. they'll knock the buildings down and they'll develop them to, the fullest potential that they can get for their money, because they've got all the Harvard attorneys and all the people that they need, a much greater disposal than we have. The areas that you see, it's like the lady that just spoke. I mean, the maps show it as a fortress. It's going to be developed to the maximum. And we moved here for the village atmosphere. Not, Reno is the largest little city in the world, and we don't want to be in the largest little village in the world. The only development that's going on in Section 14, by the way, if you notice, is on land that has been purchased as fee land. The 48 Baristo, the homes at Alejo and Caballeros, the wonderful Frey building that was destroyed, and they put in that conglomeration of mess at the corner of Ramon and Sunrise. So basically, they need to diversify before the gambling runs out, unless they can get Batten to extend it. I mean, they're smart businessmen. They've got smart people working for them, and I feel sorry for people that are renting on leased land. And I think you should leave this to the voters, is what I think.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome. You'll have 5 minutes.
My name is Pete Snyder. I'm a broker, real estate broker, and I do basically loans. And this gentleman came to our meeting this morning over in Palm Desert, Thomas J. Davis, I believe Chief Planning. He was discussing Section 14 here, free and simple land and Indian land and what could be done here and everything else. And I think there's a confusion here. What's going to be done here? There's rumors out that they're going to do this, a Ferris wheel, a gambling place. Why would they want another gambling place next to this other one they just built up? And they're just barely making it over there because there's no business there. It's busy, but it ain't business. They're pulling from their other place in Ramon down there. So basically, I think it's a whole mixed up thing. I don't think anything should be done right here tonight. I don't know about a vote by the people. You have 40 or 50 people here in a township or a section of how many people are in a section on it. And I think the Indians got a raw deal in America, and now they get lucky, and everybody wants their money. The state government, Schwarzenegger, the federal government, now the city of Palm Springs, everybody wants their money. They finally got lucky. I think you should organize it too here. I've been coming to Palm Springs. I found Palm Springs in 1963. I live here. Now I lived here in 78. There's a really nice place to live. And this all is a conversation of 40 people that are against it. They don't know if they're going to lose their houses or what the Indians are going to do. And I think you should put a cycle together where it's all even and make some sense out of this. Because right now it's all gobble-gobble. That's what I say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome. You'll have 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Lester Bagwell. I'm a homeowner. I live at 1967 Broadmoor in Palm Springs. I've lived here for 25 years. I was Gene Autry's driver and bodyguard for 17 years, and I've worked at the same Palm Springs hotel for 18 years. I own 6 homes in the valley, and I pay a lot of property tax. Instead of voting to approve this plan tonight, I urge the city council to give it to the people of Palm Springs to decide. A decision this big belongs in the hands of the voters. There are a lot of complex issues for the voters to consider, like whether we want more casinos in our downtown, or whether we want to invest $10 million of taxpayer dollars in Section 14, and whether the benefits of the tribal government's plan will outweigh the cost. The voters of Palm Springs are best qualified to answer these questions. Please honor our desire to examine these important issues for ourselves. Thank you.
And thank you. Good evening. Welcome. You will have 5 minutes. Please give your name.
Good evening. My name is Joy Meredith. Good evening to you, Mayor Oden, City Council, city staff, tribal staff. I'm Joy Meredith. I've owned Crystal Fantasy in beautiful downtown Palm Springs since 1987. I've lived in Palm Springs for 25 years, and I'm proud to be the president of Main Street, the Merchants Association of Downtown Palm Springs. Tonight I'm here to tell you that at our last meeting, we did unanimously vote to support the Section 14 Master Plan. We had, on occasion, been privileged to see this plan in the past. We were familiar with many of the aspects of this. I'll tell you, too, that I also feel very proud I was able to be a part of this in many different aspects. As a member of the General Plan Committee, when this discussion took place, we discussed that maybe the Agua Calientes would consider removing some of the offending listings that were in there. Right away, that just was no problem at all. They took out a lot of the things that were definitely a problem to people, like driving ranges and 70-feet light towers or whatever it was that was purported to be in there. But we also just found that, you know, when there was a problem with it, they seemed to be very easy to work with to get it to the point of where it is right now. You know, the Agua Caliente Indians aren't just some business corporation out there. They're our neighbors, our friends, our business partners. In some cases, they're our families. They've been here for way longer than we've been, and I believe that it is in their best interest and in their heart to do what's right for this land. Because this land isn't just some piece of land that they built their property on or they just plopped down on. This land here is their heritage. And I know from the Agua Calientes that I know that this is something that touches them deep in their heart, probably somewhere that we really don't even quite understand. But I do feel, from looking at the work that the Agua Calientes have done in the very nice casino, which was a far cry from the Taj Mahal looking one that we were looking at years ago that was considered to be built there. So I feel that the Agua Caliente Indians have really proven to us that they care and that they're going to do a quality project. And I just feel confident that that's what's going to happen. And so on behalf of the Merchants Association, I do want to tell you that we do endorse the Section 14 Master Plan, and we're proud to be backing it. Change is inevitable, and I think that we're very lucky to have the Agua Calientes as partners in our downtown area. Thank you very much.
And thank you. If there's anyone else who would like to speak, please come forward at this time before we close the public comment section. Please come forward. If there's no one else, this will be our last speaker.
Hello.
Good evening and welcome.
Joan Martin. I'm actually quite bewildered. I hear that there's no need for more casinos, that 2 are scheduled and 2 are completed. The Indians say this, and yet they are at the state level trying to get no limit on the number of casinos. I understand that the Indians on the Section 14 would like to have many changes made, and you've discussed them, in order to attract development. And yet, the spike in the lease costs for residential people is really quite scandalous. And certainly, those prospective developers will notice that this happens and will not wish to bring their development to Section 14. So I'm bewildered, and there are many reasons to vote for this plan. There are some we don't quite understand, and many people are concerned about other issues they feel shouldn't be voted on yet. I wish that I could support the Indians 100%, as I used to feel. But I don't know that I can feel confident in their goodwill. Thank you.
And thank you. That will conclude our public comments, and we'll take a brief recess. We'll call this meeting back to order. We have finished our public comment on this issue. And council, questions do you have, or observations, comments at this point?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Prunier.
I do have a couple questions. The first one in the exhibits, page 11, regarding parks and recreation. The specific plan would require about 22 acres of new parkland. However, the specific plan does not designate any land for open space or parks. Existing Bristow Park and the tennis center would remain. How much confidence do we have that the tennis center and Bristow Park, could you give me some background there?
Well, you know, the tennis center is a lease that the city has with the school district, and then we've subleased that to two entities for tennis purposes. And, you know, so right now we have tenants. I'm not familiar with the current status of the tenants, but they did make, the first tenant made some substantial improvements. The second tenant has processed plans for an expansion of the tennis facilities at the tennis center for their portion of the club, a new building, new tennis courts, pretty substantial improvement. Okay. It's been approved, but it hasn't gone forward to construction. In taking a look at the Section 14 master plan, and when we looked at that issue as we went through, in taking a look at Section 14, I think the conclusion of the planning process was that if you take a look at the development potential and types, that most of the recreation opportunities in Section 14 in conjunction with commercial developments will be outdoor plazas and activity areas and things of that nature. And if you look at some of the schematic diagrams that were in the plan, that the open space would be a more urban activity. In the residential type recreation amenities, that most of that would be provided on site. And then that the general recreation activities of the community would be accommodated in our existing and future park programs. The Sunrise Park is one, which is more of an activity park. Subsequent to this EIR preparation and the preparation of this, most of the specific plan, the city adopted the Quimby ordinance for parkland dedication. So we're actually in a position where we'll be able to add to our parkland in the future. So I think, you know, the feeling was in the Section 14 area, we'd either have urban activities associated with commercial and other activity, or on-site recreation activities as opposed to public parks.
Okay, okay, that's good to hear. I think that's very, very important. Page 24, infrastructure. What cost to the city based on new infrastructure? Any estimates?
During the early preparation of the plan, the issue of cost of infrastructure to the city was one that we met with the tribal staff on a number of occasions. At this point, from the city's perspective, the development would be a pay-as-you-go. So as you create development, you would pay for the infrastructure necessary for the development. The good news is we've got a really good spine roadway system and utility system in Section 14. So a lot of base infrastructure is already in. And if you take a look at the projects that have been built recently, they've paid their own way for all the infrastructure. The redevelopment agency does have redevelopment projects areas in Section 14, and I would anticipate any type of public financing that might occur or assistance would occur through the agency and the redevelopment plan. And that's something that's currently being reviewed by the City Council and advisory committees.
Tom?
Mr. Davis?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, just like to add to that, back in 2001, prior to the completion of the environmental impact report and the environmental impact statement, we commissioned Economic Research Associates to do a fiscal analysis, economic analysis of the plan. And they did it originally in 95 and updated in 2001. And I just want to give you some facts out of that analysis. One was first that They projected conservatively that the Section 14 new development from that point to 2015 would generate approximately $300,000 to $500,000 net tax revenue per year in that period of time. They also projected revenue from taxes to be a total of $6,600,000 in 2001, and projected the tax revenues in 2010 to be $9,016,000 in 2010. In addition, they also showed that tax increment generated in 2001 was $800,000, and tax increment generated in 2010 would be projected to be $2,200,000.
Thank you. Several residents tonight have expressed concern over their lease in the condominium complex. And can you give me a little bit of background? Have they been offered a new lease, or they have not been offered a new lease? Could you shed some light on that?
Well, Councilman, I would say that, first of all, we're not, as the tribal government, we're not privy to lease developments. That's something between the individual allotted trust landowner and the tenant, and I'll let Mr. Bunce explain more of the detail of how that occurs.
Yes, Councilman, if I may. There's been a lot of misinformation and just non-information about the difference between the tribe and individual Indian landowners. An individual Indian landowner is essentially a citizen of the tribe. The tribe is a government, much as the city of Palm Springs is a government. It has citizens that live here. In Section 14, which has 640 acres, the tribe owns 72 acres of land. That's all, a little over 10%. On those 72 acres are the Spa Hotel, the Spa Casino, the tribal office, the cemetery, but not a single residential unit. The tribe is not the landlord to anyone in Section 14. Individual tribal citizens who own individual parcels are the landlords. I have office space in Escondido. My landlord refused to renew my lease. My beef is with him, not with the city of Escondido. So I hope that people will bear in mind that if they've got a difficulty with an individual Indian landowner, that's where the difficulty is. The relations between the landowner and the tenants are a matter of the lease between them, the master lease, the sublease. That is regulated under federal law entirely by the Bureau of Indian Affairs. The tribe has no role in that relationship, just as the city of Palm Springs has no role.
Right. I mean,
Could I,
yeah.
Mr. Alshire.
if I could make an additional comment that is really more along the lines of dealing with the city's police powers and land use authority. And we certainly, in terms of meetings we've had with some of the residents, we understand their concerns and the concern anybody would have with their rent going up significantly. Tonight, you are dealing with what your police powers are. And in fact, even were we not dealing with a sovereign immunity and a sovereign nation, and let's say we were just dealing with a developer, a city, when it's looking at land use issues, is supposed to be looking at the land use impacts, the size, the traffic, the effect of the property on surrounding properties. Where cities have in the past sometimes tried to use their police power to affect commercial relationships, the private business relationships between parties, there have actually been cases that have determined that that's an improper use of your police power. Again, even if we weren't talking about the tribe. For example, if the city decided that it didn't want a food for less, but it wanted a Vons because there's a higher category of clientele, and tried to use its zoning to accomplish that, the question is the nature of the use and and its effect on adjacent property, not the issue of the economics of the use itself. So that would apply, again, even if we were dealing with a private land use owner. So I think that while we understand the concerns that they've had with their rent going up, the only way the city could potentially get into those kinds of issues is to get involved with a whole rent control process, which involves a whole set of entirely different kinds of issues. What we're dealing with tonight is our police power and looking at these land use.
So my specific question is, were they offered a lease?
Was
But that's,
Were they offered a lease, regardless of the increase?
well,
You don't know.
We are not privy,
Okay.
just as the persons representing the tribe are not privy to what's going on with the allottees, your city officials have not made inquiries as to the status of the lease negotiations.
Okay, okay.
are there other questions? Ms. Falk?
Mr. Mayor, I just want to follow up on something that Steve has asked, which I think is a concern that some of the people here were feeling tonight. Have there been meetings held between the tribe and the allottees in Section 14?
Yes, to answer your question regarding the land use plan, the Section 14 land use plan, there have been a number of meetings with the tribal members, both the membership, the general membership, and the allottees. As you may know, that we have an Indian Planning Commission. The Indian Planning Commission is open to the membership of the tribe. We've had the Section 14 land use plan on that agenda for many years, and we have had input from the allottees and the tribal members.
So there have been no formal meetings to outline what they were going to do as a collective group in Section 14?
I'm not sure I understand your
Who?
question.
Between the tribe and the allottees?
There have been meetings, and there has been a consensus and approval of the Section 14 master plan between the tribal council and the allottees, yes.
And there's no other agreement that we don't know about?
No.
That's happened between the allottees and the tribe?
No, there is not. It's been a democratic process within the tribe.
Okay. Because I think that was the concern of some of the citizens who believe that this is a plan that's been put together outside of the Section 10 plan, that one will trigger another, and that elephant's been standing here and nobody was going to say it, so I've decided to say it. The other thing is I would like to ask our staff, I don't know if everybody knows, but this is what we as a city council have gotten on Section 14. This is a lot of information for us to digest, and we just received the final EIR report, which is dated July 2002. I received it on March 22nd, making it impossible for me to have fully reviewed this EIR, and I want to know why we didn't receive it until that time.
Mr. Reddy?
Yes, Councilman, I would defer to the Director of Planning who sent those out. One of the dilemmas that staff always has when we're looking at projects with a lot of information is when do we send information out? We sent the actual specific plan out to the council in November with the Planning Commission staff report, so you could take a look at that plan. We debated how early, to send it out, recognizing that the city council gets a very large packet virtually weekly, and usually a larger packet for every council meeting. We felt that, giving you the plan, the EIR in that time frame was a reasonable period. We recognize it's a lot of reading, and we recognize the hardship it poses, but the concern we had was if we gave it all to you, early when you were all just coming on the council, with all the material, and I've heard the descriptions of the volumes that you've all received as new council members, that, you know, the balance was, you know, to try to give you the documents in a succession so that getting ready for the meeting, you would have an opportunity to look at the material. You know, that's the answer in the time frame, and we apologize if we didn't give you enough time.
Well, what it's created is a 400-plus page document with very complex issues that I have not been able to fully digest. I also received a copy of a letter from the United States Environmental Protection Agency that received this from another citizen that we have not received in our packet, nor have we been given.
Councilman, I can address it. I've not seen that letter either.
If I could.
That it was not sent to us, I do not believe, and I have not seen a copy. I would like to see one, and I will ask the EPA for a copy of that letter.
If I could comment. That was a letter that was received as part of the review of the draft environmental impact statement and EIR process that, you know, has been ongoing for a period of time. The letter is in the final EIR, and a written response, you know, to that letter is in the EIR. And I'm not sure if the tribe has had any follow-up actions with the EPA, but in that letter, you know, was part of the comments we received during the draft review process, and we did prepare a written response to that letter.
I also want to know what the procedure is if we are to, in the actual mechanics of voting on this evening. As we know, the Planning Commission did recommend the reduction in the height, and I didn't see it anywhere in here. So that means that if we vote yes on what we've been given tonight, that it stays at the 100-foot. Is that correct?
Let me take a quick look at the resolution to answer that question. My suggestion in the council's motion, just so it's very clear, is that if you do not support the Planning Commission's recommendation, or that you do, you make that as part of the motion, and that way there's no confusion in the record. And we'll follow up as you've indicated. There's a lot of material, and you know, but I would just suggest that you take a look at that as part of your motion, and that way it's very clear for everybody.
And looking at the resolution, I don't see it that specifically called out, so I think Doug's correct that if that is your intent to modify what the Planning Commission is recommending, that you adopt the resolution with the notation that we make those revisions accordingly.
Then I would like to move that we make that amendment to the resolution. Which, I mean, we have several resolutions before us, and in reading all of them, there was no mention of the height. So I'm not exactly sure where that would be placed.
Oh, also, just to note that we did pass out this additional language concerning the findings of significance, and we would ask that in adopting the resolution that that be added as well.
What is that document that you're just referring to?
It's the, I think it was just handed out. It's dated March 31, and it has correction sheets for the master plan statement of facts and findings concerning overriding considerations.
We prepared it as a legislative draft, so you can see the edits, basically the findings on that document. If you need a copy, we can hand out additional ones.
Thank you.
Yeah. If I could briefly summarize the handout, the page 40 and 41 is part of the statement of facts and findings, and basically all this does is take the facts out of the EIR. The facts are that the EIR concluded that cumulative impact on water was a potentially significant impact that couldn't be fully mitigated. So that's on page 40 and 41. In the bold text, that comes virtually right out of the EIR. And then if you go to the next two pages, this is the statement of overriding conditions, or considerations, excuse me. We added one item on page 1 relative to just referencing water and water impacts, and then on page 2, we put a summary in regarding the cumulative impact, and that's the information that is in the EIR. And that way, from the standpoint of council findings, your findings would be consistent with the final EIR relative to water consumption.
So what are we, I'm sorry, what are we adding this to? I mean, this is a lot of information here too that.
This is the same.
That would be added to.
Excuse me, I'm going to ask that whoever is speaking out in the audience, if you would please cease, because we can hear it. Thank you.
Yes, if you take a look at your agenda packet, I'll show you where the first 2 pages would fit in. It's Exhibit A. It's on page 2 of your agenda packet. It's the statement of facts and findings regarding the environmental effects from the approval of the project. And then those particular findings would actually insert into page 41. Is where the insert is, I believe. That would be 41 amended. And then it would go on to the next page. So basically, we're inserting the information relative to the facts and findings regarding water related impacts. And then the second additions, page 2 and 47 amended and 48 amended. Again, would just be adding those paragraphs to what's referred to as Exhibit A, and that's the project benefits and statement of overriding considerations.
And just to make sure everyone understands, fundamentally the EIR did discuss the water impacts, did conclude that there is an overdraft situation, and that it's obviously nothing this project can do to alleviate or mitigate or reduce that impact. It's really a regional problem. And so it's an unavoidable significant adverse impact from the project. And the ER discussed that. Under CEQA, if you have an unavoidable adverse impact, you can adopt a statement of overriding considerations, which says that notwithstanding that impact, the significance of the project is such that you still want to go ahead and approve the project. And the EIR made that conclusion with respect to air quality and this water issue. And in the document that you had before you, the statement of findings, the part about the water impact was inadvertently left out. So this is just taking the language from the EIR and making this conclusion that it is a significant adverse effect from the project, and including this in the overriding statement that is adopted as part of your resolution.
I just want to go back then to the question about the Planning Commission's recommendation on height. and how do I go about inserting that?
You would insert that into the resolution, and that would be the second resolution. That would be the ordinance. Excuse me, the first resolution, you would put in the now therefore be it resolved section, you would add to the end of that section, the city council approves a building height either at the 100-foot level or the 60 to 75-foot level, and that would be page 1D4. Or it could be added as a now therefore be it resolved, further resolved. And if you just make that as part of your motion, what the height is, your staff and the city attorney can put the appropriate language in as far as how it would actually be worded.
Does it need to be voted on to insert that?
No, if that's the intent in making the motion, which I think you made, that it include the permitted height being the 100 feet, if that's the intent, then we will just reflect that in the resolution. You don't have to take a separate action unless somebody in the council disagrees with that.
The permitted height being 60-15.
Being 100, are you saying reducing it to 60 from?
Taking the planning commission's recommendation
And you would.
and inserting that.
Yeah, we would take the planning commission's resolution or recommendation that's at the beginning of your staff report, and we would craft that into the page that I just referenced, if that's the pleasure of the city council.
And that's what I'm asking. Is it the pleasure of the city council? Do we need to vote on whether
Yes.
or not to insert that?
Yes, I think you should, the council should discuss what you want the height to be.
Yes.
Well, I'm moving that it be included.
Is there a second? Okay, it dies for the lack of a second. I think we just need a little further discussion. No one's had a chance to make comments yet. Mr. Mills.
Yes, I think if we're gonna modify that, Minnesota, I think whoever makes the motion for the approval of the project, I think would be a better time to do it. I'm not rather than just as a separate issue. So I don't think that issue's dead, is what I'm saying. But I have a couple questions of staff. Doug, could you comment for me what the density increase is per unit over the current general plan versus the new general plan, proposed general plan?
Yes, Councilman, I will. I'll give you two answers to that because we looked at it two different ways. In the EIR, and if you want to follow through on page 3-42, there's a table that took a look at a development scenario out to the year 2015 of what in theory could be developed under both plans. And under the existing general plan, under this development alternative, was estimated that we might see as many as 707 hotel rooms developed in Section 14. I mean, the plan would permit up to that, and 1,829 residential units. That's the existing general plan. The proposed specific plan, the projections that were analyzed in the EIR, were 500 hotel rooms in that same time period and approximately 1,240 residential units, so it was intended to drop. If you go back to the tables that talk about total development potential within Section 14, and I think this would be, a build-out condition, under the existing general plan on hotel rooms. In theory, there could be up to about 2,800 hotel rooms. Under the Section 14 specific plan, it's 1,806. so it goes down. And that, you know, I'll give you a little explanation on how you do forecasting of build-out. If you take a look at the existing general plan on multifamily residential, the existing plan was just under potential of 5,000 dwelling units within the square mile, and the proposed plan is 1,956, and that comes from the EIR, just a number of pages in front of the table that I just called out. If you'd like to look at those tables, you can. I think the difference between the numbers is the Section 14 master plan does commit more land, possibly to the commercial development. But anytime you do build-out forecasting like this, you have to make some assumptions on how much land would end up being residential and how much would be commercial. So you come up with your best calculations. I think the last set of numbers I gave you are very high end. If we take a look at development patterns today, nobody's building at maximum density. I mentioned that earlier in my remarks to the City Council. So if you take a look at the proposed specific plan from a residential and hotel standpoint, we would probably have fewer units. But even in the residential, or excuse me, the commercial components of the Section 14 master plan, there's an encouragement for mixed-use development that would have residential and commercial. And if we develop a market for that, which I think we're very optimistic, you might see those numbers adjust a little bit because you've got roughly a little over 200 acres of vacant land in Section 14. And the market, as you've heard tonight, is going to dictate whether or not you have large pockets of commercial or you have mixed-use development or you have larger pockets of residential. And that's the way our current general plan is really set up. So that's the information that the EIR analyzed as far as development scenarios.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Just a comment. I probably have a better advantage on this master plan in that I was on Planning Commission for this 6 years prior to being on council. And during that 6 years, I think probably my second year, probably 97, 98, we saw the master plan for the first time. Well, we'd actually seen it before glimpses, but saw it more formally. We received the master plan while I was still on Planning Commission. I read the prior document to the final. We dealt with it in study sessions several times, met with Mr. Davis several times in study sessions. So I probably have a bit of a jump on everybody else on the council on that. But I was impressed with the plan at that time. I'm still impressed with the plan. When you look at when you analyze what the plan's really showing, it's taking our main east-west corridor, which is Tahquitz, from the airport to the downtown, and treating it as a monumental street in the sense that it is becoming more open, more typical type use that we have from Sunrise to the east to the airport, although much smaller, much larger parcels. But that particular stretch of land right now is our very high-end office, the only place we really have it in the city, and it has a very high-end look to it, and it's continuing that high-end look down into the downtown with mixed-use development, resort-type development, and not what the previous zone or zoning ordinance or general plan showed there, which was much more of a conglomeration, much more of just is not as attractive a spline. And it's not just the zoning; it's the required sidewalks, bike paths, lighting, identification areas. I mean, it's a well-thought-out plan, and it's a very good link, I think, from the downtown out to the airport. So I think it was very well thought out, and I think to what it has done in taking the smaller parcels and that which have several different zones on them, as they're all spotted through in the little 5-acre parcels mainly, I think, and tying them in together to make or to create an opportunity to easier put projects together and do large-scale projects, which I think is what the intent of the plan is, and it certainly encourages that. I think that is a very positive thing for the city. It will create more open space. It will create a less dense look along Tahquitz, and you already heard Mr. Evans speak to what the numbers are from a density standpoint. So I've thought long and hard about this, and I really am a supporter of the plan. And I think that we are looking at a very major, a very important area of our city, and it's sat pretty much idle for several years, for a long time, and I'm really glad that it has, because it has given us the opportunity to create something much better than the original plan. And so I would like to thank the tribe for their effort here and their forethought, and for working with the city and understanding what this city is about, and being a part of what the forefathers of this city and our zoning ordinances back into the early 1970s, the things that we have strived for and strive to create in the city, that they've picked that up, and probably, I think, well, not probably, they have enhanced it from what it was before. So I will definitely be supporting the project. I also feel on the high-rise issue, my feelings are very much the same as the statement that Mr. Evans made earlier, and that is in 1988, the city came up with an agreement on this parcel to allow the 100-foot for Indian development, and for the normal, the 60, the 75, you call it that, for non-Indian, and I don't see any reason why we need to change that 100-foot rule. It's I think with the setbacks, which are much more defined, and the openness that you'll get from the additional height. When I say additional height, I mean over the 35 foot. That I really don't think we are sacrificing anything here. Thank you, Mr. Oden.
Thank you. Are there other comments?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. McCullough.
I think it was over 2 years ago, there was a public meeting that was held at the Spa Hotel where this draft, it didn't say final, it said draft, was presented to us, and I had no capacity with the city at that point other than being on the Human Rights Commission, but it was open to the public. I went out just of interest and saw a very similar presentation to this done at that time, and probably just a smattering of citizens showed up at that. Most of the people were more real estate developers and people like that, and landowners who showed up, and it was a question and answer and a presentation. So it's not new. This isn't something that's just been dropped on the community in the last few months. It's been out there, and there've been public meetings. I attended one over 2 years ago. And so I wanted to make that point.
Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Fogg.
I wanted to join Chris in saying that I also like the plan. I think that the area needs to be developed. We have a lot of empty land that's filled with debris. It is not a good way to come into our city when you land at our airport. It's not a good looking area when you drive around our city. And I think that unfortunately change is very difficult for many of us. Many of us always looked at Palm Springs as a little village, and we're not a little village anymore. We're a city, and I think that the growth is important for our survival because of what our financial situation is, and a lot of other things that it's inevitable. But I think that smart growth is what's important. And I think a lot of things in this plan are smart growth. I have some major concerns about the density issues, and I have voted no on many plans that increase the density, and that's one of my major concerns is about the density. And my other major concern is about the height of the buildings, especially where they can be built on this land. And so taking that into consideration and taking into consideration the fact that if I was voting yes tonight, I would be voting without having read a document that was given more than 400 pages of a document that was just given to me a week ago. So I am not going to be able to vote on this, and I feel sad that I'm not, because I think this, as many of our citizens have said, this is one of the most important things that we will do. This is the center of our city, this is the look of our city, and I think it's important that we do have a plan in this area, but unfortunately, I won't be able to vote on it.
Thank you, Ms. Fogg.
Mr. Mayor?
May I? First, I want to commend both staffs because I know that it has been a very long process, and it's sometimes extremely intense. And I'm fully supportive of the plan. I think it makes sense. It's creative, and it will be good for Palm Springs. Certainly one of the concerns that I had coming in this evening was the height, the 75 feet versus the 100 feet. I was not aware of the history of 1967 or 1988 into this evening, and I'm pretty comfortable in agreeing with Mr. Mills that the horizontal and vertical setbacks will make it something that's not easy to do. I'm also comfortable knowing that, since 1967 or 1988, there hasn't been a 100-foot building built. I think that the tribe is very conscious of that. These items, as Doug has mentioned, will come back before us again and again. And in the spirit of being good neighbors, which we are, we're business partners, we can have smart, good development, and I think we can have it with the 100-foot limit that they have right now. So I will be making a motion that supports moving a motion to support the plan with the 100-foot limit and not the recommendation of the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Are you making the motion?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Yes, with some other clarification. Steve, I'm assuming you mean with the other two recommendations by Planning Commission, which were reviewed with the tribe?
Correct.
Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
I just want to make a couple comments. For those of us who have been in the city for a while, we can remember during the late 80s and up through the mid 90s what our downtown looked like. And our vacancy rate was extremely high, and people were beginning to refer to us as a ghost town. And of course, during the midst of all of that, we were hearing people saying that, well, Palm Springs is running everything down valley, everything's going down valley. And we decided as a council early on that for part of the revitalization of the downtown was to create an entertainment district. In essence, the tribe followed that same thing with the entertainment district. Now, when we talk about this decision tonight, I think it's important for us to realize, and several people made the comment about how important this issue is, and I agree wholeheartedly, because this decision, I think, in many ways says something about our future, and that is whether or not we are going to move forward or we're going to regress. This is an opportunity for us, and it's not like we're voting on any specific developments. We're still just discussing the parameters of what might be done. Whatever project will come will still have to come before us. It'll have to go through the environmental impact study, has to go through the planning commission, and still come to us. So there isn't a specific project that we're looking at this time. But what we are talking about is the fact that the business world is looking at Palm Springs. And everywhere I go, people are talking about what's happening in Palm Springs. And if we miss this opportunity to move forward, we can't miss this opportunity to move forward. Now, I would agree that we must have smart growth. And the fact is that we have an opportunity, unlike other cities in the valley, because we have experienced slower growth. And the development that's coming into the city, we've had an opportunity to scrutinize more, so we're getting quality development. The tribe has been working with us every step of the way, which is another thing. I mean, when we look at some areas who have, with municipalities that are working with tribal governments, it is absolutely chaotic. Absolutely chaotic. Now, I'm not saying that we're problem-free, but our situation in Palm Springs is light years different from what other areas are experiencing. We have a very unique situation, and we truly have a cooperative relationship. I think this just says to the business world that, yes, we are moving forward. It will still mean that we have to look at the quality of projects that comes forward. I think the council is committed to making sure that we bring, or that we allow the best possible development into the city, and I believe that we have the commitment of the tribe to do the same thing. So with that, roll call.
Okay, this would be for the first two ordinances, first two resolutions, and then we'll have an ordinance that I'll need a motion on after that.
Mr. Mayor, is it possible to put that ordinance motion in there with it?
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Punier?
Let's do that then. The ordinance is part of the motion.
Okay.
Okay.
Would you like to waive the text, and I'll just read the title?
And you'd like to read title waive text, is that right?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mills.
I would agree with that.
And thank you.
Okay, so this would be an ordinance of the City of Palm Springs, California, amending the zoning map by removing all existing zoning within Section 14 and established 9 new land use designations for 640 acres bound by Alejo Road to the north, Sunrise Way to the east, Ramon Road to the south, and Indian Canyon Drive to the west, Zone C1, C1AA, C2, RGA8, R2, R4, R4VP, PD 101, PD 180, and PD 164, Section 14. Ms. Vogt?
Abstain.
Mr. McCullough?
Aye.
Mr. Mills?
Aye.
Mr. Punier?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor?
Aye. It passes 4 and 1 abstention. Is that accurate? 401. Okay. Then we will adjourn this public hearing and we'll have a brief recess and we will reconvene. We'll call this meeting back to order. Roll call.
Ms. Fote?
Still here.
Mr. McCullough?
Here.
Mr. Mills?
Here.
Mr. Punier?
Here.
Mr. Oden?
Here, all accounted for. There are no presentations. Reporter posting of the agenda.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this is an adjourned meeting from your March 24th meeting. You do have some additional materials before you in the yellow folder. That would be related to item 1. There's a number of resolutions in there. Also, there are 2 resolutions revising item number 3. You should have a packet for 1 and 2 resolutions for item 3.
Okay. Report on the closed session report.
Yes, on the agency, the real estate matters involving VIP Motors, Gabay, Coachella Housing Coalition, none of those were discussed. The item involving the Golf Course Hotel, Bill Swank, we gave a status report, no action was taken. The item involving Winters and Landmark Equities were not discussed for the city. Desert Water Agency negotiations, we gave a status report, no action was taken. Direction was given for further negotiations. Greyhound was not discussed. Palm Springs Townhomes was not discussed. The item involving South Palm Canyon Drive, Stitch, we gave a status report. Direction was given for further negotiations. Labor negotiations, we gave a status report. Direction was given for further negotiations. Exposure to litigation, 3 cases. We discussed 1 matter. Direction was given for further discussions. And the initiation of litigation and the city attorney evaluation were not conducted.
Thank you. The Housing Authority, the Industrial Development Authority, the Financing Authority, and the Community Redevelopment Agency have no business this evening. We will now open the floor up for public comments. You will have 3 minutes. The first card that I have is Sergio Santos. Sergio, are you still here? I think Sergio is gone. And the second one is Bob Evans. Please come forward. You will have 3 minutes. Good evening and welcome.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council, and staff. 18 months ago, through David Reddy's office, we and Mayor Kleindis, we managed to close the street off of Indian into the movie colony. I'm actually representing the movie colony today. We temporarily closed it, and there was no moaning or groaning, and everyone thought it was a great idea. What it basically did to my street, it turned it into a country lane, and I live 150 feet off of Indian, and it's quite a picturesque street now, you know. There's no traffic congestion, we don't get no hookers, no johns, or anything going around there. The police chief stopped all that, you know.
Well, thank goodness.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that a complaint?
Well, some people did complain, you know. My wife's listening. I'd just like to say we've gone all through the process of going through the city council, going through David Brackian's office, and going through all the utilities and getting the easements taken care of. Everything's done. We paid our $500 to the legal fees to the engineers department, and I've been working with Alec, and I've been trying to get it on the planning commission agenda for the 14th. I know you're busy, and I know there's a lot of big projects come up, but I feel my need, or the movie colony's need, is only going to take a minute to discuss. What it is, it's the vacation of the road. Now, David Reddy's department told us they were going to vacate it. The actual road they're going to vacate is Avenida, El Alameda. It is a 50-foot by 137-foot. So they're basically going to give it to those 2 neighbors, that part of the street. I've been trying to get it on the planning commission for several weeks now, and I can't seem to get it on there, and I wish the city council could help me or try and encourage that the planning department get it on there. The other thing I'd like to speak about, and this is personally, is about the Palm Hills development. I've done a bit of research on that, and that's going to be a $2 billion economic help to the city over 10 years. And I think with the council's direction, I think it's going to be a real upgraded, nice golf course. We won't see much of it from the road. And I spoke to Councilmember Float there, and she told me that the homes were beautiful, and I believe it, you know. And I don't think the people in TV land can say, don't build this because we need it for this city. So please, could you help me? Thank you.
And thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in public comments? Please come forward this time, give your name to the clerk. You'll have 3 minutes. Then we will close public comments. There's no consent agenda. We have no public hearings. Council comments, announcement, interagency reports. I'll hold mine until the next meeting.
Well, if you hold yours, I'll hold mine.
Okay, then we'll hold those until the next meeting. We will move to It's too long. Yes. The legislative action, item number 1, Convention Center Expansion Phase 2 Project Trade Bid. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I would like to note that as part of our presentation this evening, we have our project management team headed by Mr. Smoot, as you know. One of the architects is here, our director of procurement, and the convention center manager as well. Just to put this in context, we opened the bids a week ago on the convention center, and they ended up being $6.9 million over the estimate. There's a whole litany of reasons for that. We asked for an additional week to try to remedy the situation, and we can successfully say, and we must owe a great amount of appreciation to our project development team for getting us back to where we needed to be. So it's not $6.9 million over, it is right on budget. So Mr. Smoot is going to discuss items on your agenda 1 through 4. And with that, he can begin his first report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Riddy. Mr. Mayor, members of council, thank you for adjourning your meeting for us tonight. And I know you had a tough public hearing before this, and we're here with the first real project in Section 14. Since your last meeting, the team here, plus quite a few other members, have been burning the midnight oil to try to get this project back where it needed to be. I believe we're there, and what I want to try to do is walk you through this stuff. I know you got a lot of it at the last minute, and I apologize, and hopefully I can quickly walk you through it and move through each of the items. What we're recommending a series of resolutions which are attached to this first report. The first group of those resolutions are the items that are in the box on the first page of the report, which is basically the straightforward approvals of the bids that came in for dry utilities, landscaping, flashing and sheet metal doors, acoustical ceilings, floor stone, and lobby carpet. The second group are 4 trades: asphalt, copper fascia, metal stud framing, EIFS, and painting, which we are asking you to reject all of those bids and authorize us to rebid them. In talking to the financial people.
Would you repeat that last part, please?
Yes. Asphalt, copper fascia, metal stud framing and EIFS, and painting are 4 trades that we would like you to reject tonight and authorize us to rebid. There's some pretty substantial amounts in there, and in order to be able to do this, we had a long discussion with Suzanne Harrell on the financing team, and she felt as long as we had the rebidding completed and back to you by your May 5th agenda, and that we established allowances and we stayed within those allowances, or we used our contingency to cover any overages, that we would be fine. In that case, we have established 4 trades that we need to establish allowances on, and they are the metal stud framing, and no longer are we using EIFS as a product. That's what created a major problem in one of our bids because of the insurance liability of it. We're now using plaster. So we've established an allowance of $5.4 million. For painting and wall covering, an allowance of just under $300,000. For stone and masonry, $1.6 million, and for grading, $747,000 and change. The team behind me and several other people have also been working hard with the existing bidders that submitted their bids to try to find ways to reduce the dollars that were in the project. And there are resolutions for the next several, which include concrete reinforcing, structural steel, roofing, glass and glazing, HVAC, wet utilities, operable walls, and the direct equipment purchase. Each one of those resolutions awards the contract as well as approves change order 1. And what we have achieved is from concrete reinforcing, we've received $40,000 back. From structural steel, $225,000. From the roofing contractor, $115,770. From glass and glazing, $13,000. HVAC, $22,000. Wet utilities, $108,600. And operable walls, $49,370, and from the direct equipment package, $50,556. You add all those up, and it's a little bit over $600,000 that we've achieved in a week. Now, we're not done working on that. We will continue to work on that and try to bring additional dollars out. So there is a group of resolutions which, again, would award all those contracts as well as approve the first change orders, which are all deducts. Trade number 38, which is the direct package equipment, the direct equipment purchase is not attached. It's on item 3 later that we'll talk about. But I did want to show you at this time that we achieved some dollar savings. On the financing side, at the same time, we were seeing our bids go up. Luckily, interest rates were diving. And Suzanne Harrell from the Harrell Company has reevaluated her previous financing estimates, taking into account the lower interest rates, some additional interest earnings on a reserve fund, and extending the bond term 1 year from 30 years to 31 years. She's able to increase the production of those bonds by $4 million. If you take that $4 million coupled with the allowance changes, the change orders that are above, you end up with a balanced budget. If you are interested in more of the numbers, you could look at the last 2 pages of that council report. The first page, which is entitled Attachment 1, it's on 1S2, is a listing of all the trades and all the contracts. We are now looking, instead of having $34.6 million worth of contracts, we've got $32.2 million worth of contracts. So we've taken $2.4 million out of that. To that, we've added the $4 million of additional financing. And then on the next page, we put those dollars in there, and we end up actually having $641 left for the tip. So we think we've achieved it. And are ready for your questions, with the exception of one thing I need to talk to you about, and that is the project schedule. As you remember from our conversations several times, in order for this building to be open on September 1st, 2005, we must turn dirt on April 19th. That is 19 days from today. In order to get there, we have to have some contractors with contracts. We have approved some contracts previously, 2 weeks ago, that had a condition in there that said subject to the council's approval of bond documents. When I put that condition in there, I assumed that on the 7th you would be approving a resolution to approve bond documents. That's my first error of this week. And what's happened is, indeed, the council will be approving an ordinance to approve bond documents, which takes a second reading and 30 days to run. That will totally destroy our project time schedule. So I would like to recommend that when you look at these resolutions tonight, in the last line of each resolution, it said it's hereby awarded subject to city council approval of bond documents. I would like you to change that to read, is hereby awarded subject to city council approving an ordinance for first reading approving bond documents, with the understanding that that will come before you next week, and that a few days later, we will begin releasing some of the contracts. We need to release steel, we need to release demolition, we need to release release all of the mechanical, electrical, plumbing trades, and one or two other minor ones to get started. You will have approved the beginnings of the bond process. The actual bond sale will not occur until sometime in May. There are some risks there. We've talked to Suzanne Harrell about it before we formulated this process. We have a meeting on the 8th of this month with the insurance folks who look at bond issues to see if they will be able to insure this. And hopefully by the 18th, which is the day before we would turn someone loose on this site, we will know if the issue is insurable. Once we know the issue is insurable, in not quoting her, but paraphrasing her, we're pretty much got a slam dunk. So there are some inherent problems in not moving forward. There are some risks in moving forward. We absolutely cannot make the schedule, though, if we don't turn some folks loose after you take action at your next meeting. So with that, I'd be happy to try to answer any questions on this first council report.
Council questions?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to hear from Mr. Alshire on doing this, because this seems risky to the non-legal eye.
Well, unfortunately, I have to say this is the first I've heard of this. So I haven't had a chance to talk to Suzanne Harrell and go through what her thinking is on the process. Theoretically, in terms of adopting an ordinance, you have to have a first reading and a second reading, and then it's 30 days before it's effective. The presumption that is being made in presenting this to you is that there is no possibility you will not go forward with the second reading, or that you know, I guess the other aspect is ordinances are subject to challenge in certain circumstances. So I don't offhand know. I understand the schedule issues. I understand that you're, by taking the first action, the council has presumably bought into this and will go ahead and do the second reading and go forward with it. There are some questions I would have asked staff in going through a dialogue about this that I hopefully they've thought about it and there aren't any issues, but I'm hearing this for the first time as you are.
Okay, thank you. Are there other questions? Mr. Mills?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Smoot, you mentioned that prior to the shovel hitting the dirt on the 19th, you will have an answer on the insurance. Is that correct?
That's what I understand from Suzanne.
And based, if that answer is that it's not positive, in other words, you can't insure them or can't insure them at the level that we need to insure them, what would you do on the 19th then?
We would have to stop the project, I would assume, if the council did not want to proceed with it. And at that point, you would have exposure to the contractors that you let start on the job.
And who would that be? And how much would that be?
I don't have an estimate. It would be the 5 or 6 contractors I did talk about.
Well, you have some exposure. You certainly would not have the full amount of contract exposure.
No, I wouldn't believe so.
And in the structural steel, they're not fabricating. You're buying the poundage right at that time, right?
That's correct.
So, which is sellable, which would probably we should probably buy more and sell it later. You know, the way this is going up. I understand the risk, and I'm hoping everyone else understands there is a risk here. I think it's a minimal risk, and I think the big risk to me is not to get this thing done on schedule. And I hope there's not a real reason that Mr. Dunn's sitting over there and the rest of you guys are sitting over here. Because I know that Jim was also involved with the group in coming up with the dollars out of here, and it was a monumental effort to take out almost $7 million in a week. But I personally am going to move to do this, but I won't do that until everyone else has had a chance to comment on this.
Council? Mr. Punier.
Yeah, I'd just like an update. So $5.4 million allowance for the drywall. Do you think that's, I mean, obviously that's a big one that's sitting out there. Why do you feel comfortable with that number?
Well, we worked, excuse me, we talked to the bidders that submitted the bids this last time that were substantially higher than that even, and worked backwards from the number they gave us to come up with the allowance, assuming that, number one, the biggest concern they had was EFS, and that product will not be in the mix, and backed out several other contingencies that they had built in that we can clean up in the bid documents, and came up with that number. I think we feel pretty comfortable with it, as comfortable as we can feel at this point with it. And we are working very hard. When we did these bids last time, we had some smaller contractors that we really focused on to try to bring into this. Because of EFS, they did not bid. We have talked to them since the problem a week ago. We now have 3 of those firms willing to come back in and bid on this project, which is more the size of firm that we believe should be able to doing this. So we believe we can get there at 5.4.
Thank you. Just one additional comment, Mr. Mayor. I also see this still as a extremely important project for the future of the city, for TOT, and for bringing people here. And so I know we're all working very, very hard at it, but it still has my unwavering support, although we've had a lot of difficulties. So, thanks.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mills.
I would like to make a motion to, we're approving the resolution on number 1, correct? And Trish, should we do, or should we do these? Can we do the?
Yeah, we can do them collectively.
All the 1B through 1S at one time?
Yeah, I counted a total of what, 18, Al? Did I say 18?
Yeah.
So it'd be 18 resolutions, so you'll be approving the awarding, rejecting, change orders, everything at one time, and you can do that in one motion.
So we're not just dealing with item 1, well.
Well, it's all item 1, but it's all 18
But it's all of them.
resolutions.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
But we're not dealing with the ordinance until the 7th, then, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so, but we're going to modify the resolutions to say, on the last sentence,
First reading.
subject to city council approval of ordinance for first reading.
For the bond docs.
Of
the bond documents.
Subject to approval, subject to approval of the bond documents, is that basically it?
Yeah, we'll
Okay.
refine it for you, but
Okay.
it's, yeah.
Please do. Anyway, I would move those resolutions.
I'll second that.
And we have a second. Ms. Phil.
Yeah, I have a question. I guess it's back to the issue of, I would like a dollar figure on what exposure we would have at the point if the insuring did not happen.
I guess I wish I could give you that. I don't know the answer. I can tell you that at that point, if you pulled the plug on the 18th, no contractors will have set foot on the site yet. They will have started to mobilize. They will have gotten their bonds and their insurance and all those kinds of things in there. And so there will be 6 contractors that could ask the council for dollars to be compensated for that. Whether or not they could sue because they expected a contract, every one of their contracts are conditional upon you approving the bond documents. So, you know, there is still a potential there, though. I mean, I can't tell you.
But we can expect an updated report from both Suzanne and from Mr. Alshire.
Yes, but if we pass these resolutions saying that, then the updated report doesn't help us, because we can't change that. And I am still concerned about Mr. Alshire not having heard this, because I mean, I'd like to, staff is being very quiet about this, so let me hear from the city manager.
Yes, I can address that issue. Couple things. The convention center, like its companion project 2 years before, parking structure, we've been asked to do things in a time frame that's incredibly compressed beyond the capacity that a bureaucracy has to do it. We have had to have a solutions perspective for both projects. Now, the easy thing to do is to say, no, we can't do it, we can't meet the deadline, it's got to be stretched out. That has economic impacts that council did not want to have to deal with. So to meet these timeframes, this is another one of a long chain of creative solutions we have had to deal with. These things come at us, it's a moving target, we react in the best way we can. So the question in my mind is, on the cost-benefit analysis, is the risk reasonable? If I didn't have that plug on the 19th, I would be more sensitive to this than I am now. I have a comfort level that council will approve this project. I have a comfort level that if we can't get insurance, we have another opportunity to pull the plug, if you will. But the risk or cost of doing business to meet our deadline is whatever penalty we would have to pay for those amounts of contractors. Now, what I will do before I sign the contracts, because you are going to give me authority as city manager to sign these contracts. But I'll tell you what, on a personal level, professional level, I will have more information before I actually sign those contracts. And at that point, in the next few days, if I feel there is significant additional risk, I will come back to this council before I sign those contracts. So it's a judgment call. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor and a second.
Mr. Mayor, could I ask a question of the city attorney? This is a resolution that we're passing right now, that in order to sell the bond documents, we do an ordinance, is that correct?
Yes, again, I haven't had a chance to talk with Suzanne concerning the whole process, but that is my understanding. There would be an ordinance authorizing the issuance of the bonds. The resolutions tonight are just a part of the normal public bid process where at the conclusion of receiving bids, you go ahead and authorize the award of contract by resolution, which if we weren't doing a bond financing, that is the normal way you would do it anyway.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Roll call?
Ms. Folk?
Yes.
Mr. McCullough?
Aye.
Mr. Mills?
Aye.
Mr. Punay?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor?
Aye. It passes unanimously. We'll move to item number 2. Staff report, please. Convention Center Expansion Phase 2 Project Survey.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and members of council, this particular council report is to award a professional services contract for the surveying and staking that has to take place on the project. We did solicit some quotes from 3 local firms. You can see those on the council report, with the Keith Companies being the lowest, and we would recommend that you approve that contract.
Move the minute order, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Any questions? Roll call?
Ms. Fote?
Yes.
Mr. McCullough?
Aye.
Mr. Mills?
Aye.
Mr. Punay?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor?
Aye, it also passes unanimously. We move to item number 3, Convention Center Expansion Phase 2 Project Equipment. Staff report, please.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, many moons ago, previous council approved us working with Turner Logistics to buy large pieces of equipment for this project to save money. We have gone through the process with Turner Logistics and are proposing that we buy our air handlers, chillers, cooling towers, electrical switchgear, a generator, and a good portion of the lighting package through this direct purchase program. The resolutions that you have in the packet, there were 2 new ones given to you, numbered 3B and 3B2. Basically, they're the same resolution, except in the last week, we've been able to achieve some $50,000 worth of savings. So the new resolutions reflect that lower amount. The difference between the resolutions, we wanted to bring it to you because there's a possibility of saving an additional $19,000. That's really a council policy decision whether we should do that or not. The first resolution would just approve the purchase of this equipment at $1,617,262. The second resolution would approve the purchase at some $19,000 less than that. However, in order to do that, the council would have to agree not to assign its normal provisions for purchase of equipment, and that has to do with the retention of funds. The industry's normal practice is 90% upon receipt of the equipment and 10% upon completion and startup of the equipment. Our normal contracts have a requirement that they get 80% upon delivery, 10% upon completion, and startup, and 10% after the project has been totally completed. In doing their costing, most of the contractors identified what the cost of that additional time was, and it's some $19,000. The staff's recommendation is that since this will be put in a time fashion, that we will be able to see it fully started up, that we have full warranties on it, and that we believe we should take advantage of saving the $19,000 and would ask that council approve 3B2, that resolution. And the folks from Turner Logistics are here also tonight in case you have any questions about that process.
So we're looking at revised 3B and 3B2 as the 2 resolutions.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Council?
I have a question first. Mr. Smoot, you're saying that this equipment will be installed and operating prior to completion of the project, full completion of the project. Is that, and with that, why does that increase your confidence level here?
Well, I guess knowing the way we pay the bills, that they're not going to get their normal 10% or normal retention, the 10%, until the project is completed. And that's going to be way after equipment has started up in there, because the way we're building this building, we've got to stick equipment in and replace equipment and start it up immediately, well before we complete portions of the building. I mean, that may not be the case for all the light fixtures, but I'm not so concerned about light fixture not working. It's the heavy equipment that we are. And so we believe that not only will we have it started well before it's done, they're not going to get their last payment until the project is complete, and that payment's going to be some 30 days after that anyway.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mayor, I'll move the resolutions. The 2.
We have 2 resolutions. Is there a second?
Second.
And
Revised 3B and
Revised 3B.
yes, and
3B2.
No, which one? You have to do one or the
Yeah,
other.
One or the
2.
other.
2. 3B2.
Yes.
Revised, okay.
Roll call.
Ms. Vogt?
Yes.
Mr. McCullough?
Aye.
Mr. Mills?
Aye.
Mr. Punay?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor?
Aye. Passes unanimously. And we move to Our final item, Convention Center Expansion Phase 2 Project Parking Lot. Staff report, please.
I'll go ahead and give this one also, Mr. Mayor. This is the parking lot across Amato from the convention center. We bid it to where there were several options, and the options that we're recommending to you is that you build the southerly half of that lot, and that we do some work on the northerly half to where it could actually work as some overflow parking in the form of putting some gravel down. And the total contract is $730,000 and change. $553,000 of that will come from the financing at the convention center. The remainder of it comes from Measure A funds, which the city engineer has gotten out of our friends at CVAG to help us pay for the project. And with that, I'd be happy to try to answer any questions, and so would Dave, I'm sure.
Council?
4B.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the minute order. Roll call.
Ms. Fote?
Yes.
Mr. McCullough?
Aye.
Mr. Mills?
Aye.
Mr. Punay?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor?
Aye. Passes unanimously. Are there any additional legislative items?
There are none.
Added starters?
There are none, sir.
Reports or requests? Council reports or requests?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I would like us to set up, staff to set up a meeting with Mr. Westman to discuss the Desert Fashion Plaza and plans and timeline. I don't know whether that would have to be on a city council agenda, a study session agenda.
Were you saying that you wanted to have that discussion in a council forum, or you wanted staff to have that discussion and come back with a report? That's what I thought you had said, Councilwoman.
Well, if council has it, it would have to be at a study session?
Yes, it would have to be some agendized meeting, but I understood you to say you wanted staff to have the meeting
And staff
then
can
report
have the
back.
meeting and come back.
Thank you.
And we might, I would kind of like if we could set up a subcommittee possibly to be part of that meeting.
Certainly, what I will do is agendize the staff, or the subcommittee on the next meeting.
Thank you.
Public reports or requests? If we would, could respond to Mr. Evans' request for information regarding the street closure?
Sure. Councilman, we have been working with Mr. Evans through this process. He seemed to be very happy with the flow of things. What I will do, look into the timeline that he's requested, and I will respond to him tomorrow morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Any staff reports or requests?
There are none.
Oh, Mr.
Mayor.
Punya, I'm sorry.
Mr. Reddy, do you have a update yet on the renaming of streets, please? Request.
Actually, I do. The request, I believe, from the mayor was to actually create a policy, because there is not a policy now. The policy is primarily geared towards and to deal with the issue of businesses and residents on a particular street that would be affected by a renaming. I believe on the issue that you raised with regard to the airport road and the renaming that for Mr. Douglas, Kirk Douglas, in essence, that ultimately would fall outside of the policy because there are no residences or commercial activity, so it would just be council's discretion. However, that being said, we are devising a policy for street renaming, and we will get that to council as soon as practicable. But in terms of the airport road, that would be a little different, and that is council's discretion. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for that follow-up. Then we will adjourn this meeting. Our next meeting will be April the 7th. We have another meeting on the 14th that will not be the, it will not be the joint council cabinet meeting, because we have a special meeting for that day.
Yeah, you'll have a special call for
Right.
that night.
And
When will that meeting be?
we're looking at a date. We may have to go to an alternate day. I didn't want to set them on a day where we have another issue, because the issue that's coming forward is going to have a lot of public comment, and it would not afford our commission chairs the time that I believe that they need. So we're going to look at an alternate date. And staff will get back to us and check our schedules as well. Our next study session will be April 28th at 7 p.m. and all preceded by a closed session at 5:30 each Wednesday.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, miss.
Except for that probably will change on April 7th, because that's when I'm bringing the resolution and ordinance forward for you to change your meeting times.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I had heard from our city clerk, and I'm surprised she didn't do a report about the commissions, and I would like to hear just a brief report about that.
Please.
It is absolutely phenomenal. Today, practically the whole day, one person had to open emails, print check registration, and take applications over the counter. Probably this is one of the largest turnouts that I've ever seen for applications for your board of commissions. One commission alone that has 2 openings received 20-odd applications. So on your April 7th meeting, when you review this agenda, I have at the bottom of it for you to bring your calendar so we can set some interview dates.
That's going to be a lot.
Yeah, that's
of
going to be a
time.
lot. But it is
very
fabulous.
exciting.
It is really exciting.
Yeah.
The internet worked really, really well.
Thank you.
And thank you. We'll call this meeting adjourned. Good night.